Oh, oh man, I got a new friend. Ah, this is COFOH Live and Undead. I am your host, Daniel Crosier, and I am joined by the amazing author, Jennifer Ann Gordon. Oh!
You write something on my face?
Jennifer, how are you?
Hey, I am awesome. I was a little riveted by your credits. I found all of the splashing strangely comforting. It was like ASMR for the eyes. I was just very, very drawn in. And then I thought I'd probably have to up my podcast game eventually and get some kind of cool graphics for my show.
Well, yeah, let me know. I know a couple good fake blood people.
I don't know if I would have to necessarily have blood, though that would be my first choice.
Yeah.
But but I'm good. Thank you for having me, Daniel.
Yeah, no, it's great to be able to have you on and to chat with you. And I'm glad that you got your last COVID shot and we're able to rejoin society, I think.
I don't think I've ever been in society.
You're right.
I've always been just like on the fringes, but I am very happy to once again be able to go on vacation and travel because I've been in my house now for over a year and because I have asthma, I take care of my elderly mom, my husband and I do, so we've been really strict on our lockdown and I just have to not see these walls anymore.
Right.
I just need to leave the country.
I know that feeling too. We've been pretty strict over here. I haven't really seen my family too much in the last year, and I'm actually okay with that. I get a lot more done that way.
I know. I'm more productive. I will say I do miss people. I had a very kind of out there social existence before COVID because I was a dance teacher and I was a dance performer. So I was always on stage or performing or going to events or wearing cool costumes. So it was a hard pivot into isolation. But now I feel like I'm a house cat. I'm just like content and happy, except I want different walls. Like I would probably just like when I travel, I might just like hide in a hotel and be like, no, this is fine too. It's just different walls.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. With this last pandemic, I mean, you've been really productive. But first, tell us everybody that's watching a little bit about yourself. Where you come from and how you got into writing.
My name is Jennifer Ann Gordon. I am from New Hampshire, which is in New England, for those of you who don't know, which is in the northeastern corner of the United States. I say New Hampshire a lot, and people think England, or they've just never heard of it, or they think we're a suburb of Boston, and we basically are. Basically, we're a suburb of Boston. So I lived there. Before COVID, I was a professional ballroom dancer and choreographer. I was also just a general dance performer with my husband, and we did burlesque and cabaret and lyrical and all kinds of cool dancing. But I've always been a writer at heart because when you go to school for theater, which is what I went to college for, you're going to make it big and you're going to make good money and and you're never going to need a side job.
No, never.
But I think I went to school for theater and I love developing characters. for the stage, and that just kind of naturally led itself eventually towards writing. And I wrote a lot when I was a kid because I was, like many horror authors, I think I was bullied, and I spent a lot of time in my English teacher's classroom in junior high. And I think she was just like, if you're going to hang out here during lunch, you got to do something or else it's weird. And I remember she gave me one of those blue notebooks with like the lines in it that you fill out for tests. And she said, here, write a story.
Oh, cool.
And that was the first story I wrote. And I would spend every lunch hour just filling those blue notebooks. And I loved it. And then you get older and you tell yourself you can't do things for whatever reason. You just do. And it took me a while to finally convince myself that I could probably take a chance at writing.
Yeah.
Again.
Do you recall what that early story was when you were a kid?
The story in that blue notebook was actually a year after the story that I think is actually funnier for this crowd, which is in 6th grade, we were allowed to write a story for a school assignment, and it could be on anything. It was just like, write a short story. It had to have been like short story month or short story week or something. And I was a very sheltered 6th grader, and I had recently developed a fascination with Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, cool.
Because I had seen it on TV. So I saw like the definitely that very edited version of Nightmare on Elm Street. So I wrote what turned out to be just Nightmare on Elm Street fan fiction for this short story, where I made Freddie and Nancy kind of have this sexual chemistry. Like he was in love with her. That's why he was haunting her dream. So it was like Edward Scissorhands. But with a lot of violence towards like the kids on my school bus. Like I think if I wrote it now when I was in school, they would force me to go see a therapist. But they didn't force me to see a therapist. My teacher did write the word no on it. Just no grade. No.
Just don't do that.
Just don't. And I was like, do you want me to redo the assignment? He was like, no, I'm good. Like, no, it's fine. And I was like, well, is it going to affect my grade? And he's like, nope, like, it's fine. Like, he just like washed his hands of it. Like,
I'm not touching this.
Yeah. So that was kind of the first story I remember writing. And then the next year, I think I wrote my first thing in that blue notebook was a courtroom drama, which again makes no sense at all because I didn't know anything about law except for like what I saw like on TV. So I wrote a very elaborate courtroom drama where I didn't know the difference between defense and prosecution, but I did write all these like exciting scenes where people were questioning murderers and murder witnesses.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Not good.
Well, you said you were watching a lot of, courtroom drama. Was that like Law and Order or something like that?
I think it was, like early Law and Order, or I remember my dad watching reruns of Hill Street Blues, which was like a police show.
Yep.
So I think, it was things like that. So it wasn't even cool, like Law and Order.
Yeah.
It might have even been, and I'm like dating myself, but like some reruns of LA Law.
Okay. Yeah.
So not even New York crime, but just like fancy lawyers and fancy convertibles. And I lived in New Hampshire, so I definitely knew a lot about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, clearly, yeah. That was your gateway to LA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, write what you know. Oh, I'm 12. I'm going to write this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hilarious. I think Jimmy Smits was on that show too.
Yes, he was.
Oh God. But man, so that's pretty cool. But past that, you weren't really writing or anything, and then all of a sudden, you dove right back into it. Was there a moment that you just decided, hey, I got to take the plunge again?
Yeah, it was. I would say it was a very slow dive back into it because my very first novel, Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, was. People always ask, how long did it take you to write it? And I always say 20 years and 3 months, because I think it was like 20 years of it living in my head. I wanted it to be a stage play when I was in college,
Oh, wow.
but it never would have worked because, it's a horror novel. It's a ghost story. And I think that would be just very difficult to produce on a no budget at all and not knowing how to do lights or sound or direct or any of those things. So, but that's when the initial idea came up. And then about 10 years after that, I wanted to write it as a graphic novel.
Oh,
And
cool.
at that point in time, yeah, I owned a comic book store and I'd been dabbling in some graphic novel stuff, indie press and self-publishing. And I thought, this is a great idea for a graphic novel, but I couldn't find an artist that wasn't way out of my price range. And so again, it just got put on a shelf. And about 10 years after that, I just kept saying, like, every few months, I was like, I just want to write a book. I want to write a book.
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, I came up with the idea for my book, From Daylight to Madness. And I started to research that because that's historical horror. And I spent all this time on research and was getting bogged down. And then I, just told myself, as an exercise, like just to kind of clear the cobwebs, I'm just going to brainstorm Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent because I already know the story in my head. Maybe it's a short story. Maybe I don't, who knows what it is. And it kind of just came out of me fully formed like a creature.
Oh, nice. Yeah, whenever somebody says that, fully formed as a creature, I keep thinking of the tequila scene in Poltergeist 2.
Oh, that is, honestly, I have nightmares to this day about that tequila scene. It is a huge trigger when people ask, like, what is like the scariest thing you remember about your childhood, the scariest movie? I'm like, it's that tequila scene.
Wow.
I have nightmares about like waking up and like choking on a large worm.
No,
So,
I could totally see that. I think that's from that movie. That's my favorite scene. But the thing that scared me the most was, the cult leader guy.
yes.
Oh, whenever he shows up to harass
the outfit, the teeth, the
teeth,
hair,
the smile, and
the spindly fingers like tree branches.
God,
I'm like, oh, I'm getting chills, but that could be side effects from the vaccine.
Yeah. Let's hope it's just chills.
Yeah. Let's hope it's a ghost.
Yeah. There you go. The basis for your next story.
I feel like a lot of my stories start with, do I have schizophrenia or am I haunted?
Yeah.
And then it like goes out from there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a mixture of both.
Well,
the best ones are
interesting and festive.
Yeah.
With your first novel, having gone through all those different transitions and changing in ideas of medium and delivery, can you tell the folks watching what it's about?
I can. It's been a long time since I've elevator pitched it because I'm like, all right, let's do this so it's like snappy and fun.
Yeah.
I always say it's Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar mixed with The Haunting of Hill House.
Okay.
So at its core, it's a story about grief. It's about a man named Adam who is an alcoholic, and his wife and his son die in a car accident. Yeah. And their death brings up a lot of childhood trauma for him and guilt. And he doesn't have the emotional tools in his toolbox to deal with grief. So he slowly descends into madness, basically. He tries to drink himself to death. There's a suicide attempt. He's in all these group meetings. And then one day at a group meeting, a grief meeting, he hears somebody mention an island off the coast of Maine that if you go there and you want it bad enough, the people that you've lost will appear to you, but they will be different in some way. And he gets this idea in his head and he decides to go to this island, which is called Dagger Island. And he stays in an old boarding house with an 82-year-old man and the ghost of the woman that man murdered 60 years ago. Ooh. So the three of them just sort of feed off of each other's energy
Yeah.
with the murderer. His name's Anthony. He's 82. He has lung cancer. He probably has dementia, but he's still a sociopath and a murderer. And the ghost that's been haunting him has just been trying to drive him crazy for 60
Yeah.
years, and maybe it's worked.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a menage a grief, if you will, while Adam tries to reconnect with the
Yeah.
ghost, especially of his young son, because he really wasn't a big fan of his wife.
Wow.
So uplifting. It's
Yeah,
uplifting.
that sounds fantastic. Yeah, it definitely sounds like kind of that gothic, haunted horror that you would
Yeah.
see. Not only, well, obviously, Haunting of Hill House, but so many of those haunted house films. But I know I'm mislabeling this, but
No,
it's
you're not. I mean, it's like, so I always think of it. So there are movies like The Others
right,
or
right,
The Orphanage, which are both gothic haunted house
yeah, Crimson
movies,
Peak,
Crimson Peak. But
yeah,
at the core of all of these stories, and at the core of a lot of gothic horror, is loss and
yeah,
grief,
yeah,
because it's always being haunted by not necessarily a ghost, but by your past, and what happens if you can't get away from your past.
yeah.
What if it's a ghost, or what if it's schizophrenia? We don't know.
Well, yeah, and also like things undone, or things left unsaid, or the wrong things said.
Yes.
Those type of hauntings, or yeah, it's amazing what will sit and eat away at the human soul,
Yeah.
and so it can be a haunting, I suppose, on the metaphorical level. It's just your guilt just
Yeah.
gnawing away at you. I mean, that's torment enough.
I mean, it is, and there are themes I keep coming back to, and I come back to them for my own personal reasons of like losing people in my life, but I also definitely blame Stephen King, because I read Pet Sematary when I was 10, thinking it was about a cat. And
Oh,
and this is a true story. I lifted that book out of my uncle's bedroom because he was living with us, and I would read it secretly, hidden behind my dollhouse, which was a creepy old Victorian dollhouse.
ooh.
So I'm like, this is why I'm who I am, who I am. I just sounded like Popeye, but but like reading Stephen King's Pet Sematary, which is again it's a story about grief and loss,
Yep.
and being creeped out by my own dollhouse and doing it all in secret.
Oh, geez.
That's how a horror author is born, right there.
Right, right.
That's the origin story.
You are born in secret,
Yeah.
in dark places, in lonely classrooms.
Yes. The
Oh,
best of us are.
yeah. The Now, you went to college, right?
Yes.
For acting and performing.
Yes.
Did you always have a drive to act?
I did. I did. I started dancing when I was 3.
Oh, cool.
And so I'd been on stage a lot as a kid, but I never really had to talk because I was a dancer. And then when I went to school, I ended up being actually pretty shy,
Mm,
which is weird, like seeing me
yeah.
now, and I'm just like, blah. But I was really shy, and I realized I just didn't have any self-confidence, so I had a hard time being me. So like I couldn't give a book report, and I would have died if I had to read something I wrote out loud,
Mm.
but I could act in a play. I could be somebody else.
Okay.
Um, and that's kind of lingered for a while. It wasn't until I started teaching dance that I realized I had to be myself and a performer at the same time, that I got over it.
Man, the you mentioned too, like you were a dance instructor up until the beginning of the pandemic, and then with the pandemic, and obviously self quarantining and taking care of your mother, right?
Yes.
Um, did that allow you the time to finish your first batch of books?
Um, it did. It allowed me. Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent had already been finished,
Okay.
and my series, the hotel series, which is 2 books, From Daylight to Madness and When the Sleeping Dead Still Talk, that was mostly finished.
Okay.
Again, we talked before the show, that was supposed to be 1 book that I cut in half.
Right.
So that was mostly finished. I was finishing that up at the beginning of the pandemic.
Nice. That yeah, because you put all 3 of them out in close proximity of each other,
Yeah.
and it's just like, wow, this person really works. But yeah, as you indicated
I
earlier,
really work.
yeah,
I still work.
yeah. But as you indicated earlier, it was over the course. Well, the first book anyway was over the course of some 20 years, taking different iterations.
Yeah.
During that time, were you writing little bits and pieces or notes, or was it all in your head and then it just
So with that book, Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, it makes me sound a little weird, but after I storyboarded, I storyboarded some of it for a graphic novel,
right?
but even what I storyboarded didn't translate into what the book is now.
Okay.
What the book is now is I didn't write it down, but I would spend time like with it in my head every night when I would be trying to fall asleep. It was like a movie playing, and I would fall asleep at a certain time in the story, and then the next night I would take up from that moment and keep going on. And every time I would get to the end, I would go right back to the beginning and retell myself this story, and the characters changed and their motivations changed, and who they really were just kept morphing over time. And that was kind of years. And there's a few stories that do that in my head.
Oh, that's cool. Wow.
Yes.
Very cool. The with the second, but the hotel series, what is that about? Is that more along in line with the first book?
It is, it is. It's Victorian based though, so it takes place in 1873, and that is a story about a woman named Isabel. This is From Daylight to Madness, who gives birth to a child, and the child dies after 3 minutes.
Oh,
and
dude.
her husband and her mother-in-law don't allow her the time to grieve, or the just kind of the emotional ability to grieve. They say, like, it wasn't even a baby. You had the baby too early, and
Wow.
it wasn't even a baby. You shouldn't be upset about this. And they basically start drugging her and gaslighting her into thinking maybe she's crazy, or she's grieving wrong. So at one point they're just like, you're too sad, and then at the next day they're like, you're not sad enough, you're not crying, but you're moping around. So
Jeez.
they basically end up shipping her away to a hotel.
Okay. Wow.
Which turns out to obviously not be a hotel, but more of a lunatic asylum. And once she is there, she encounters a lot of really great characters, and she gets kind of involved on a friendship level with a disgraced priest who may or may not have dissociative disorder, and he may or may not be a murderer. So that's what the hotel series is about. The first book focuses on Isabel and her journey, and the second book focuses on Francis. He's the priest who might be a murderer.
Wow. That's that sounds really intense. It sounds like such a personal topic too, dealing with right after pregnancy, having lost a child, or whatever the situation might be, and then having your loved ones kind of drive you mad.
Yeah, it's I hate to say it's not a book for everybody, but I know it's not a book for everybody, because I've had good friends say, I can't read this. Like, I just can't. I can't do anything that has to do with the death of an infant or a child, and I completely understand that.
Yeah.
But it was the story that I needed to tell, and I'm glad I told it, and I'm glad I told it the way I did. And
that's good. Well, it sounds like it strikes a nerve, so it's got that reverence.
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope. And those books, all my books just recently came out in audio.
Oh,
kind of
cool.
within the past couple weeks. So that's been exciting, and it's been really great to hear people who aren't me saying
Mhm.
my words. And
Nice.
I had really great narrators. Aaron Smith, he narrated Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, and When the
Cool.
Sleeping Dead Still Talk, and a beautiful narrator named Zoe Robinson. She did From Daylight to Madness, and they're breathtaking.
Nice. Oh, that's fantastic. The yeah, people can find your work at jenniferannegordon.com.
Yes, that's the easiest place to find links to everything. It
Okay.
has, the book links on Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes and Noble. You can link to your local bookstore, so you don't, if you're anti-Amazon
Yeah.
for reasons,
Yep.
there's plenty of ways to buy my books.
That's fantastic. The and you've also garnered a lot of attention. I mean, you've got a number of awards. Like a Kindle Award for Best Horror and Suspense for 2020. Actually, they're all for 2020, aren't
They're all
they?
for 2020, and I'm exhausted.
Yeah. The authors on the air. It's your
Award. Yep.
finalist for, excuse me, American Book Fest Book Award in horror.
Yeah, these are a lot of those were the awards were all for Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, which was my debut novel. And then I got some like gold star and platinum star things for From Daylight to Madness and When the Sleeping Dead Still Talk.
That's fantastic. The Manic Demon just chimed in. He wanted to say hello.
Hello.
Manic Demon.
Hello, Manic Demon.
Uh,
When you said the Manic Demon chimed in, I thought, did I just say something? I thought you were referring to me as the Manic Demon,
yeah.
or my mom or
Oh,
something.
I wasn't alluding to anything. I was just saying that clearly I was talking into a mirror and I said its name too often. And there he appeared.
I know.
Yeah, it's almost like Candyman, just
Yeah, or Bloody Mary.
sweet.
Less sweet than Candyman.
Yeah, during the pandemic, you writing and everything, have you been able to take time to take in other people's works? I know
Yes.
you do also a podcast, with writers as well. So I'd imagine you read a lot.
I do read quite a bit. I usually am reading one book with my eyeballs and listening to another book via audio, and
Mm.
I'm writing. So I tend to at least do 2 books a week. I try to do 2 books a week. Sometimes it doesn't work. It depends. If I'm really in the zone with writing, then I don't read as much. But I try my hardest to read every author that comes onto my show.
Nice. Wow.
Doesn't always work.
No.
But if it doesn't work, I at least read a good chunk of their work or research them for a while. But
Oh,
I tend to be able to read their work.
that's so cool. The in your podcast is called Vox Vomitus.
Yes, Vox Vomitus. Like I'm
Vox
like it's a
Vomitus.
spell.
I'm gonna have to say with the accent, Vox Vomitus.
Vox Vomitus. It is.
Yeah, you really got to get into the
You've got to, or else it just sounds like what it is, like word vomit.
Yeah. It needs to be more celebratory. Come on now.
It does. It does. It doesn't need to be as like dejected. Oh yeah, word vomit.
Yeah.
Just be like, no, we're celebrating the word vomit. So yeah, that is every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It streams live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and then after that, it's up on all the podcast places. I don't know. There's like 157 of them or something. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, there's so many to go to. For me, it's like, Facebook, YouTube. I'm done. I'm on to the next thing.
most of our viewers do come on Facebook because that's where we're the most active, and because we do a video podcast, videocast. I don't know what it's called. A vodcast.
Yeah,
vlog.
that's been a term that we've been having a hard time narrowing down. So we've kind of laid it out for everybody, and it's just like, oh, okay, so just a podcast, so just be audio. It's like, no, there's a video component too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But I think saying it's just a podcast is also a good way to kind of trick guests into coming on because they're like, oh yeah, I could do a podcast, and I'm like, and we're going live, so
yeah, yeah.
put on your fanciest Zoom shirt. And
That's right. That's right. Something that says Captain Crunch or something. I don't know, but keep it fun for the kids.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, I definitely read a lot.
that's awesome. So many people have such a hard time like connecting with a book or the written word. Yet I keep finding so many people that are just incredibly well read. So I don't know where these individuals are who aren't reading new books or just reading for the love of it.
Yeah, I don't know who those people are either. I know they exist.
Yeah.
I mean, I've met plenty of people who are just like, I just don't like reading. But then
Yeah.
I'm like, well, have you tried an audio book? Like,
Right. That's another way to participate.
yeah. I mean, I know it's up to my reading ability because now when I'm working out, I listen to an audio book, and then when I'm, like laying in bed, I read with my eyeballs.
Yeah, nice. The now you just did your podcast then earlier tonight.
I
Right?
did. Yeah.
That's awesome. Way to pull double duty. Doing your show and then coming on and gracing us.
I know. So I did my show, and then I did a 2-hour writing workshop that I'm a student in, and my work was workshopped tonight. So and now I'm here.
You are busy.
Today is like the busy day. It's the pandemic. I haven't done anything for months. And then today I'm like, okay, I've got my COVID vaccine. I've got 2 interviews,
Yeah.
a 2-hour workshop. And of course, our car didn't start when we went after we got the vaccine. After I got the vaccine, car wouldn't start. And I'm like, really, on this day when I have to do all of the things?
Right. Oh, geez. Do you just needed it jumped or something?
It ended up starting after about 45 minutes.
Okay.
As I was frantically re-downloading Uber onto my phone with the no Wi-Fi. And why did I delete Uber? Oh, because there was a pandemic, and I thought, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, geez, man. Well,
so it was one of those days.
Yeah, we're glad you were able to get back home in one piece, and the effects of the shot doesn't seem to be taking too much out of you.
No, not yet. I think probably once we're done this, I'm just gonna hit a wall. And collapse. Oh, you've been on camera for 4 hours.
Oh, geez, yeah. The who was your guest on today's podcast?
Oh, it was Madeline Martin.
Oh, okay.
So her book just came out on April 6th. It's called The Last Bookshop in London.
Oh, cool.
And it is a New York Times bestseller currently. So that was Madeline Martin. And her book is actually a love story about books. It's about a person who falls in love with reading and during World War II. So it's a multi-layered historical fiction, but it is about loving books at its core.
Oh, that's so cool. But yeah, on there, you're usually interviewing horror writers, right?
Not usually, but I do have a lot of horror authors or darker fiction authors.
Mm-hmm.
I think because I'm connected with them already on social media. Mm-hmm. So there are people that are network books for us, and we go through their publicists and we do everything by all of the correct channels. And then there are people that I just message and say, will you please do my show? Paul Tremblay. That's how I got Paul. Sarah Langan, who I just absolutely adore. That's how I got Sarah, of just asking. Carol Goodman the first time. A lot of people are just nice, and they're willing to come on your show if you ask.
That's pretty cool. During this, I've noticed too, so many people seem to have a little bit of downtime, during the pandemic. So, there's a little bit more of that accessibility.
Yeah, and you know, people aren't doing their traditional book tours. They're not in bookstores doing signings. So they still need, I can hear an echo.
Oh, I think that's me typing.
Oh, okay. I was like, what's happening? So yeah, people are looking for ways to promote their books, and
Yeah.
everybody's been great. And I think the second I say like, oh, you can drink if you want to on my show, they say, okay, well then,
Right.
sure.
That's even better. Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, that gets the tongue, a little bit looser and stuff, and
Yeah.
things really start to fly. You did send over a bit of a trailer to I think one of your books too.
Oh yes, this is for Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent. The trailer's long because it has an entire song, but it has my favorite song, which is called Boneyard by Vermilion Lies. And I was very thankful that they gave me permission to use their song.
Cool.
So I was like, I'm using the whole thing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of a lot of script to it as well. Is it I was reading through there. Is it passages out of the book?
Most of them are actually reviews.
Okay.
And then in the center, in the middle, center, I have like the back of the book blurb, and then it goes. But everything that's like written there is actually things that other people have said about my work.
Okay. Cool. So for everybody that's watching out there, here's a nice review of Beautiful and Frightening and Silent.
I'll be black as coal, I'll be cold as steel, I'll be all the things you never wanted to feel. I'll be deepest pit, I'll be biggest fear, and I'll be all the things you never wanted to hear. I'll be far from home, I'll be without light, I'll be all the things come out and scare you at night. And I'll be kissing you in the boneyard, boneyard. I'll be kissing you in the boneyard, I take off all my skin just to let you in. You'll see my big black mess, my aching emptiness. You'll never feel me, no matter how long you try. You just get lost inside. You lose those perfect eyes, lose that perfect mouth, and just like me, you'll be a bride of boys, and I'll be kissing you in the boneyard, boneyard. I'll be kissing you in the boneyard, boneyard, boneyard.
That is haunting. The music that you have there, yeah, I can see why you wanted to use the entirety of the song.
Yeah, I couldn't pick a section
Mm-hmm.
that, so I just used the whole thing, and I love it so much, and I've performed to that song, and just being allowed to use it was, so that's why, yeah, used every second of it.
When you say perform, you mean dancing, right?
Yes.
What sort of dance would you do to that?
So my husband and I did improvisational,
Mm.
like contact improvisation mixed with lyrical. So a lot of ballroom dance elements, but more theatrical in style.
Nice. Okay. Wow. With music like that, it does kind of. And granted, it's a pretty elegant trailer of nice quotes talking about your work, and then the synopsis, but it also kind of transports you to a mood and definitely a time and place. Have you ever thought about adapting now your novels to something for film, or obviously you've got your stage background too?
I think at this point it's out of my hands. I have a really amazing agent,
Oh, cool.
and it would probably, and I know her main concern is for the work I'm currently writing right now,
Mhm.
but I believe that it would be on the table if it could be on the table someday.
Cool. Wow.
Now that I'm like, it's not in my hands anymore. So,
Yeah.
you know, your lips to, I don't know who would direct it. I can't remember who directed the film The Lighthouse, but he would be my,
Oh, yes.
that would be perfect. I can't remember his name.
Yeah. Ari, shoot, I can't
Yeah.
remember his last name.
It's because I put you on the spot, and
Yeah, no worries. But
vaccine brain, so I
yeah,
can't think of it.
yeah, the Lighthouse, and then I believe he also did The Witch, and
Yeah.
they're about to start on a third film too, and I can't remember what that one's going to be about. But I'm sure it'll be interesting. With horror film today, contemporary horror film, especially with indie films, there's definitely kind of that nuanced, playing with more dramatic elements, making it more of a serious,
like a character study. It's
right.
I love that horror is having this kind of resurgence where it's being taken very seriously as a
Mhm.
legitimate art form. Like
Yeah,
we're kind of, I love slasher films. I
yeah,
love them. Monster films, love it all.
right,
But they have this kind of like um, film people don't take them as seriously.
right.
But now I think with things like The Witch
Mhm.
or um, the others, what's been happening with The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Blythe Manor,
Yeah.
there's this trend of smart, sensitive, quiet horror
Yeah.
that I think is making it more accessible to other people, and it's also bringing in a lot of really great actors to
Yeah.
the game. So it's again, so it keeps elevating and elevating. If you can get A-list actors to sign on for a horror project,
Oh, yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. Usually, horror as a film medium was looked at as your entry point into the business, right? And then you just kind of work your way up and work your way out of that genre. But I think it's one of those that's just so, not appreciated, but not always the most well utilized. But at the
Right.
same time, I think it's the most accessible next to comedy.
Yeah, I agree. I think horror is misunderstood,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, and I was vaguely referring to a new piece that I'm working on, which is not horror,
Hmm.
again, in air quotes. And they
Yeah.
said, like, they were like, well, what is it? How are you going to be able to write that? And I went, everything's horror. Like, even a memoir is horror. An
Yeah.
essay is horror. It can be, it just depending on what kind of horror.
Right, very much so. There, I mean, you could just have moments of horror in it. It just that's just the way it is. If you living your life is not one genre.
Right. I know. I love that.
Yeah. So why should film be pigeonholed and narrowed down to just one little thing when moment to moment it's a different thing?
Yeah.
I tend to gravitate towards the horror comedies and I really do appreciate the new crop of the character pieces.
Yeah.
Like what was it not last summer but the no yeah summer 2019 I suppose. God, it seems like ages ago.
I know. I was going to say, I can't even remember 2019.
Yeah, Midsommar.
Oh, yes. Midsummer.
Yeah,
Amazing. And things like Get Out
Get Out.
and
Oh, so
Us.
poignant.
And so there are moments like Get Out, I love to think about because there are moments in that movie that are laugh out loud funny
Yeah,
and then biting funny and then so horrifying and then back to beautiful and then,
yep.
you know, oh,
It's a well-rounded meal, and that film in particular left me thinking. It's like, oh my gosh, is this what Black people do actually have to go through on a daily basis?
I think so. I can't speak
Yeah.
for them, but I it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility, which made it all the more horrifying
Right, and
to watch.
and to that, I think all the more important as
Yes.
well. So when film and stories can really transport you and really convey amazing ideas and also get you to really empathize with what the situation is and what these characters are going through. It's I mean bravo to the author
Yeah.
and the ones crafting that piece of work. That's
Exactly.
yeah. Man, the with your upcoming book, can you mentioned it's not so much horror, but more of a memoir of sorts.
Oh, well, so I'm working on a lot of things. So I have my top secret project, which I cannot talk about at all.
Okay.
But I do have a book coming out in July that I can talk about. That is called Pretty Ugly, and that is um, literary horror, I would say. If I had to tagline it, I would say come for the body horror and stay for the possible awkward romance.
Oh, that sounds enticing. Well, yeah, and body horror is such a an approachable topic these days too, because so many people have so many hangups on the self on their own body and the skin that they wear. So
my book Pretty Ugly, which I haven't even really started doing any press for, so this is kind of my first.
All right,
it
we
is
are prudent.
It is a book about a virus on some level, but it is not a book about our virus. It's a virus that, much like herpes, attacks your face and your anywhere near a mucous membrane, we'll just say, and kind of rots your skin away. And then sometimes you heal, sometimes you die. But even if you heal, you're drastically scarred and it could flare up again.
Oh, okay.
And the story centers on an Instagram influencer and a politician who becomes disgraced through a scandal. And you kind of figure out how they ended up in their positions to begin with, because both of them are much more complicated than being an Instagram influencer or a politician would lead you to believe.
Okay.
So kind of about what happens when fictional people have to deal with an apocalypse and they finally realize that they don't want to be fictional anymore.
Okay. Wow, that sounds cool. What a wonderful premise.
I hope so. I know some people are like, oh, not a book about a virus. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I was writing it before COVID.
And with this, like, before we went live, we were talking a little bit about, drafts and how many different approaches you have to take to to get that finished work and stuff. And obviously with your first book, it's taken a lot of different forms, right?
Yes.
Has that been the case for the following books, or with the new one?
I tend to write a vomit draft, which is
Okay.
really just me telling the story to myself, just getting, even if it's bad, just get it all out. I don't edit. I don't do anything. I try to write in order. I'm a pantser, so I don't know where it's going. So I have to have this process because that's how I discover what the plot is, I guess. It sounds like silly to say, like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what kind of book this is.
That's okay. I've written stuff like that too, where it's just like, where is this going to take me?
Exactly. Like you just have like a kernel of a concept.
Yeah.
And then maybe you have an end and you're like, I don't know how to get there. We'll see.
Where do we piece that together? What's the common threads? That's awesome.
So that's usually my first draft. Then my second draft is, what tense am I writing in? Because sometimes it's past tense and sometimes it's present tense and sometimes I'm in first person, because when I just do the vomit draft, I just write it, whatever's like popping out of my head.
Okay.
So then the second draft kind of fixes that stuff. And then by the third draft, I'm kind of back into the craft of it.
Nice.
Third through fifth, sixth, seventh drafts, depending on
just
how many it takes.
Yeah, how much you and your editor decide needs it, huh?
Yes.
We're about ready to start wrapping up, but Angela just chimed in. Sorry I'm late. Just got my second upgrade.
Hey, congrats, vaccine twins.
Yeah. And then Angela's actually one of my sponsors too on this too. So she's always really supportive. And then Brittany chimed in. Congrats.
Hey, thank you, Brittany.
What are the chances? I'm not sure what she's referring to just yet, but how did it?
When did it take for your vomit draft?
Yeah.
It depends on the work. Honestly, like Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, that vomit draft was about 2.5 months, but Pretty Ugly, the vomit draft was 9 months, closer to 9 to 10 months.
Okay, nice.
Depends. Sometimes it depends on how sick you are.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, we can't wait to see your forthcoming book.
Thank you.
July. That's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, the cover reveal is tomorrow. So if people go to my website, you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. You'll see the cover reveal of that tomorrow, and very excited because it's a gorgeous cover.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, for everybody out there. After this broadcast, make sure to go to JenniferAnnGordon.com and damn it, follow Jennifer and all her exciting works.
I love it. I love benevolent stalking. Please.
Yeah. So there you go. Make sure to go purchase her books, and that's so exciting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show, Jennifer. It's been a pleasure, talking to you.
Yeah, it's been great, and honestly, you made me forget that my entire body hurts because of this vaccine. So,
yeah,
it's been fun.
Tomorrow, make sure you sleep in and rest up.
That's my plan. Yeah. This is water.
Excellent.
In a fancy glass.
Yeah, me here, but we've already talked about my problems.
No more coffee.
So Jennifer, stick around for a few minutes. For everybody out there, thanks so much for tuning in and for supporting us, and of course for learning about Jennifer and all her amazing works. Also, thanks to Hellfire Entertainment for carrying us on your social media, and Mutiny Information Cafe. You know, if you're going to start a revolution, better make sure it's fucking caffeinated. And then, oh man, we're getting a few more comments here. So, yep. Angela says cheers. So, all right. Well, everybody, thanks again for tuning in. Make sure to look out for each other, help each other out during this time. Always remember, we love you. Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you.